that is fixed. But in the long run, all factors become a variable. That's why we have it in the long run. So today we're going to cost in the long run. In economics, cost in the long run refers to a firm's total expenses. A firm's total expenses when all factors of production, including capital, labor, and facilities, are variable. We call it the long run because whatever we think in the short run that are fixed become a variable. So we can use them. It becomes adjustable, flexible in the long run. That's why we call it long run. So costs in the long run are those expenses we incurred but becomes variable. They are no more fixed. That's why we call it cost in the long run. So what are the key characteristics of long run cost? The first one, all costs are variable in the long run. A firm can change the size of its factory, the amount of capital it uses, and the number of workers it employs. Because it's in the long run, your head office. Because it's in the long run, capital, factory, numbers of workers become adjustable. So we can employ more workers in the long run. We can increase the size or expand the size of our factory in the long run. We can increase the numbers of capital we use in terms of equipment or machines in the long run. That's why it's in the long run. 2, no fixed inputs, which simply means land, labor, capital, enterprise. These are inputs become variable. So we don't have a fixed amount or a fixed expenditure on land, labor, capital, and enterprise. All of them become a variable. So it means we can spend as much as we want or as less as we want in the long run. That's why I said because of factors of production are variable, it means there are no fixed costs. We only have fixed costs if you have fixed assets, if you are investing on fixed assets. But right now, in the long run, all these assets become variable, so they are not fixed in terms of how we use them. So that means we don't have a fixed cost, rather we have a variable cost. So in the long run, firms incur variable cost rather than fixed cost. I think the point is clear there. There's strategic flexibility. Long-term analysis allows firms to determine the most efficient combination of inputs for a given level of output. Because it's in the long run, it simply means a firm can decide how to combine its inputs. Oh, we use more of capital or less of capital. We use more of labor, less of capital. We use more of capital, less of labor in the long run. So we can choose which factor input we want to use for the best efficient moment. So if we have to combine labor and capital, in the long run, we can choose if labor will be more effective than capital or capital will be more effective than labor. So whichever combination we have to use, in the long run, it gives us the strategic flexibility to choose which combination is best. Do you get it or not? We talked about the characteristics or the features in the long run. The first one is that all costs become variable, which simply means capital, factory, numbers of workers can change over the long run. The second one, we don't have fixed costs because all the factors of production become variable. And the third one is strategic flexibility, which simply means that in the long run, whatever level of output we produce, we can have the best efficient inputs. Labor capital can be used in the best efficient way. These are the characteristics of the long run. Then that takes us to economies of scale and diseconomies of scale. Because it's in the long run, remember I told you the difference between the short run and the long run is how much more we are able to expand our scale of operation. That changes the short run to the long run. Long run does not mean 10 years, 50 years, 100 years, no. It simply means the time at which we can switch from a smaller scale of operation to a larger scale of operation. And as soon as we choose, we decide to choose or expand our scale of operation, it is expected that we witness economies of scale. Get the point here? In the long run starts from that period of time you are able to expand from a small scale to a larger scale. Do you get what the long run is here? The short run ends when you are able to expand or when you are able to switch from the small scale of operation to a large scale of operation. That changes the long run to the short run. So as soon as you are able to expand your scale of operation, as soon as you are able to expand your scale of operation, it allows you as a firm, now you split. You split. You split. Move now. You say, please wait. You don't tell me wait. You say, please wait. I'm talking to you, you know. You say, please wait. Now sit down there. As soon as you are able to change your scale of operation, it allows you to move from a fixed input to a variable input. That is what economies of scale is. So for economies of scale, as the firm increases its output in the long run, it will experience reduction in its average cost of production. So we have economies of scale because as soon as we are able to expand our scale of operation, we are witnessing a reduction in our average cost of production. And how does it happen? Remember, we have our fixed cost. Let's assume this is our cost graph. We have our FC. We have 0 units. Irrespective of whatever we produce here, we have our fixed cost. We're still going to pay this fixed cost, irrespective of whatever we produce. At 0 units, we pay. At 1 unit, we pay. At 2 units, we pay. At 3 units, we pay. So what makes it different from 0 units to 3 units? The difference is that as soon as we produce more, we are able to split the cost on different outputs produced. Do you get it or not? In the graph, we have a fixed cost. We have our variable cost. Then we have our total cost. That's how it is. This is the bone of contention. At 0 units, we pay. At 1 unit, we pay. At 2 units, we pay. So irrespective of our output, this cost is still to be paid. But what makes it important? It becomes important because as soon as we increase our output, the amount will be splitted on the output, on each output produced. So which simply means we pay, as soon as we increase, we pay less. Before now, nobody is using it. We pay the same amount. Yes or no? Now, an individual is using it pays. 2 individuals are using it. They split it. They split the same cost. Yes or no?
Yes.
Are you guys getting it or not?
Yes.
I'm talking about how reduction in average cost comes in. It comes in because the fixed cost, based on increase in output, we start witnessing a reduction in the average cost of production. At 0 units produced, we pay. At 1 unit produced, we pay the same amount. At 2 units produced, we pay the same amount. But what makes it differ? At 2 units, we split it into 2. At 3 units, we split it into 3. At 4 units, we split it into 4. So that reduces the amount each individual will pay. And that's what economies of scale is about. As your output increases, your average cost of production starts reducing. Do we get the point here, please? Great. This occurs because larger production can achieve greater efficiencies, such as lower material costs for bulk purchase or specialized use of technology. Because we are expanding, we have the financial capability to buy equipment, machines, technology that will make things to become faster and better. And that reduces our cost of production. Do you get economies of scale here?
Yes.
Any question about economies of scale? So in the long run, a firm is expected to witness economies of scale based on the fact that the unit cost starts reducing. Then there's this economies of scale. No matter how much you want to expand, you have to understand that you are not supposed to expand more than your optimum level. The optimum level is the highest you could do. So that's why we have the long run average cost. We have the AC curve. This is our AC curve, yes or no? This is our AC. This is our optimum level. This is economies of scale. This is diseconomies. Here, as soon as our output increases, our average cost reduces. Put your head up, please, and stand. You stand. You stand. Yeah. As soon as our output increases here, you better focus here. As soon as our output increases here, our average cost of production falls. when you increase more than the optimum level here, your average cost of production starts increasing. At this point, we call it diseconomies of scale. A cost disadvantage as a result of expansion. You are expanding. You're supposed to witness economies of scale, but you are witnessing diseconomies of scale because your average cost starts increasing instead of decreasing. So as soon as a firm produces beyond the optimum level, this is the optimum level, this is the economies of scale, this is the economies of scale. As soon as it produces beyond the optimum level, you are going further than this, then you've witnessed these economies of scale. You are expanding more than your capacity. So if a firm expands more than its capacity, it's going to witness these economies of scale. Do you get these economies of scale? Yes. So there's economies of scale because your average cost is falling based on the fact that your output is increasing until the optimum level, which you must not exceed. As soon as you exceed the optimum level, your average cost of production starts increasing. That is about the economies of scale. Then we have the constant economies of scale. For constant economies of scale, it simply means that despite your expansion, you are able to remain stable. Constant economies of scale. You have expanded, but you remain stable. Some firms will find that average costs remain relatively stable, despite expansion, especially after achieving their minimum efficiency scale. So you find your average cost remaining the same. You have expanded. You've expanded, but your average cost of production remains the same as previous. That is constant economies of scale. But when your average cost of production increases as a result of your expansion, these economies of scale. When your average cost of production reduces as a result of expansion, economies of scale. There's constant economies of scale, there's diseconomies of scale, and there's economies of scale. Economies of scale, average cost reduction as a result of expansion. Diseconomies of scale, average cost of production increasing as a result of expansion. Constant economies of scale, average cost of production remains the same despite expansion. I think it's clear. So for constant economies of scale, it means we are able to achieve minimum efficient scale. And what do we call minimum efficient scale? The smallest level of output which can allow a firm to produce at the lowest long-run average cost. That is minimum efficient scale. So we have minimum efficient scale that will allow us to achieve constant economies of scale. So we are using the smallest output to achieve the lowest possible long-run average cost. That is what we call constant economies of scale. Any question about the economies of scale? It's economies of scale.